Well, just minutes ago, the government's new asylum seeker legislation passed the Senate, just days after it was announced as policy. An army reconnaissance team has already arrived in Papua New Guinea to begin opening the Manus Island processing centre. The opposition supported the legislation, but it's already undermining Julia Gillard's Get Tough approach, questioning her resolve to see the policy through. Political correspondent Tommy Gillard reports from Canberra.
Who sit here.
The debate continued deep into the evening with the Greens lecturing the government on their policy backflip.
This is your legislation, and it's worse than John Howard's. I have no idea how any of you will be able to sleep straight at night.
The government wasn't waiting for Parliament before swinging into action. The first military reconnaissance team flew out this morning to Papua New Guinea. Preliminary talks have been held by phone between Foreign Minister Bob Carr and his counterpart in Port Moresby. Local politicians there say they'll fight attempts to reopen the Manus Island Centre in PNG's Supreme Court, but the government's confident the law's on its side.
So I don't think it's a major impediment to what our country and Australia is trying to achieve for the benefit of the region. And we need to help Australia also as a friend.
A campaign on YouTube's already been launched to trumpet the new policy. Refugees who've already been resettled in Australia are the target.
I cannot wait for my brother and his family to arrive in Australia, safe and sound.
But the opposition says the government doesn't have the stomach for the rough waters ahead.
What we have here is the asylum seekers dictating terms to this government. And every time they lean against this government folds like a deck of cards.
The broadside follows revelations of an incident between 67 asylum seekers and the master of this container ship, which rescued them in Indonesian waters after their boat sent out a distress signal. The ship was bound for Singapore.
When the asylum seekers on the boat found out about this, they became very aggressive.
The ship's master then called Australian maritime authorities.
And he made the point that he was concerned for his crew's safety and therefore decided to take the ship to Christmas Island.
They shouldn't be being assessed. They should be being investigated for potential crimes of piracy that carries a life sentence under our Crimes Act.
The ship's owners have told the ABC the asylum seekers threatened self-harm, adding, while the survivors' demeanour was agitated and it was feared they could pose a security threat, there was no physical aggression. But the incidents played into the hands of an opposition determined to sink Julia Gillard's new Get Tough image.
John Howard met the tamper with the SAS. This government has met the Parsifal with a welcoming committee, waving people through into our country, as this Prime Minister has done time and time and time again.
Julia Gillard's response was muted.
If anyone, in any circumstance, anywhere engages in unlawful conduct, then of course that unlawful conduct should be acted upon. The time for the political argy-bargy is past. The Australian people want to see us get on with it.
But just as Tony Abbott's trying to reawaken the ghosts of the Prime Minister's past, others are trying to bring his skeletons into view, blunting the opposition leader's attempts to make political mileage of the second anniversary of Julia Gillard's promise not to introduce a carbon tax. Key independent Tony Windsor says the opposition leader would also have introduced a carbon tax in return for support to make him Prime Minister.
Because on a number of occasions, he actually begged for the job. Begged for the job. You've never denied it, Tony. You've never denied it, and you won't. I will do anything, Tony, to get this job. The only thing I wouldn't do is sell my arse.
The member for New England will resume his seat.
Parliament resumes on Monday. Tom Mickleton, Late Line.